Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Far longer day of CDL action to close out the weekend that we began with on the Friday, but many big games today going the distance. Massive storylines involved, but of course the marquee game, OpTic versus FaZe, rematch of the Major 2 Grand Finals. Lots of storylines and implications to dive into today. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. These were the 3 games of today, and no time to waste. Surge versus the Ravens. Brand new Surge team in action. Thought this is pretty funny here from Surge. Words from the rookie ahead of his debut from 04, of course. I feel confident in facing the Ravens heading into my CDL debut. So, not sure those were his words, let's be real. Maybe somebody wrote those for him, but whatever. 04 makes his debut, known as a good search and destroy player. One of the problems that Surge have had, and that continued today, was their control. It's funny really, because Ravens, I'm not going to lie, their control was trash for a certain period of time, and it's been a big storyline, to be fair, with Clayster teams in control over the last few years, really in the CDL era. Like, there was an argument to be made, maybe there still is, that Clay is like one of the worst, if not the worst, control players that's consistently been in the league over the last few years. But certainly today, and over the last couple of months or so, Clay wants to put those situations right. This, by the way, is Surge's control record. It ain't pretty, I'm not gonna lie, based on their most recent series. That didn't change. What did change, however, was the way this series went. I also gotta say, man, we are getting a lot of these maps in place. 6-star, Vista. It's great to see the new maps being played. Sure, maybe part of it is that the teams want to test them. They want to play them in real match settings. When we get to the major, we may see fewer 6-star and Vista than we are seeing at the moment. But there's got to be something in that, right, that we're seeing lots of these new maps in. The teams don't seem to want to play the old ones. I think that Subliners versus Rocker series, we did see a fair bit of, like, the old map set coming into play. Maybe they just wanted some reps over there. But we did see Ravens play Surge here on the 6-star, and this was a really close back and forth. I'm sure that Ravens will feel they could or probably should have closed this out. They outslayed them really hard here, and honestly, I think this was pretty impressive from Surge. They were able to keep the game close, and it's funny how look, they've made a one-man change. 04 for aBeZy. aBeZy, clearly, the team dynamic wasn't working. He didn't seem to be having an especially good time. And there were questions about his playstyle. Was he playing for kills and all this? And even, well, if you guys heard the rumor that aBeZy had come into Zero's chat and basically told him, look, that new Surge team, 3, iridescent players or 3 diamond players or whatever could beat those guys, with aBeZy presumably then actually needing to play a CDL team. So his belief was the team was going to get substantially worse. The evidence of that did not play out today. I think the concern for Ravens will be that nonetheless, Clay and Gwyn have good series today. They weren't able to capitalize upon it. So they lose the search and destroy as well. And then 04, honestly, isn't far off here, dropping a 4 in 23. I know that Zuma was talking about it, and while 04 was 4 in 19, Clay was 20 in 4. I think he was 21 in 4, 23 in 5. Like, this guy had a monster game of crouching control. So cool to see, like, the fact that Ravens have gone from being a pretty damn woeful control team to being damn respectable nowadays. Problem is, Surge are still bad at it. They were bad at it before aBeZy was dropped. They seem still bad at it now, but it doesn't matter if you can actually win some hard points. This was a pretty crazy 3 as well that Gwyn got here, because it was looking a bit sketchy whether Ravens are going to be able to close out here, whether it was going to go to around 4, but somehow he just gets all of the kills pretty much, and his team help him close out the game. Goes to a game 4. Ravens win that one as well. Just to quickly note, Clay ended up 25 in 9 here, right? So monster game from him. 04 did actually bring it back to some degree of respectability here. And then we go to a game 5. So Ravens win the game 4. Close fought game 4 on the sub base. Actually thought Surge were going to win it. They didn't. And for Ravens, you've got to win at least 1 hard point against Surge. You really want to win 2. They didn't. And also just watching their cams, they clearly weren't all at the facility or the setup yet. I imagine that's coming soon over the coming days. I imagine they're still probably moving and transitioning over there. So yeah, hopefully at least, Ravens will be in the optimal online position soon. But we know that Surge playing from Vancouver, that doesn't really apply to them. So any online loss to Surge is pretty bad, to be honest. And that's what happens here to Ravens, because they go game 5. And, to be honest, I talked about this earlier with Surge, that if you win game 5, it's very plausible to say that Surge are going to win. And you can say this against, like, pretty much any team. Hook is great at Surge. 04 is a good Surge player. Of course, we didn't necessarily see that here with the game 5. But Ravens going down in 5 is pretty tough for them, because their online struggles remain, and Fedor has a really bad time here, map 5, which might be telling just based on the potential change Ravens might want to have a think about, and we discussed it in the past few days. As O4 says, cool debut series for him, you know, played pretty well overall. Clay says, yeah, unfortunate, lost 2-3, GG, Seattle, online woes continue. Top 6 of the major, but the performances online need to get better. You need those 10 points on the board. You can't be affording to give them away to Surge. And as well, we just looked at this Game 5 stat board. This was the overall series stats, and somehow, I mean, not really somehow, because they got slammed arguably on the first hardpoint for the loss, and they got slammed for the win, really, on the Karachi. But still, Clay has a 1.19 this series. Gwyn, TJ, both great series from them. And Fellow, again, didn't have many kills. Like, his KD isn't so bad, but in terms of damage and impact, Fellow wasn't really there. And when you get good series out of TJ and Clay, and from Gwyn, you've really got to capitalize, right? And this is what we said over the last few days about Fellow and the Illy situation. The fact that Illy is available potentially could be a candidate for consideration, knowing his good search and destroy. Surely you got to think about it, right? Depending how things go. Then we had Vegas versus Thieves. And this is a series that I said to you guys earlier today that even though I feel that Vegas was still the better team, Thieves actually kind of crushed them when they played last time online, and I wonder whether, like, this matchup just seems to favour Thieves. And that is what the evidence suggests so far, because Game 1 was a slammage. Like, we have seen in CDL history, like, you can probably count on one hand the number of CDL hardpoints we have seen over the last 5 years that one team has been restricted to less than 50 points. We saw another one right here with, and also, like, what's going on with this game right now? Like, the fact that if you call it the cruise and you get unlucky with where it comes in from, you just slam it straight into the Burj Khalifa. That's unfortunate to say the least. But yeah, 250 to 49 here on the Game 1. Vegas tucked into bed, and the Thieves boys were bringing the energy. Kremp was putting the middle fingers up. JoeDeceives was standing up. Ghosty was bringing the energy. Nastie was bringing the energy. This is some of the media reaction as well, actually, because the boys on the OpTic watch party were looking at this go down thinking, damn, like, they're bringing the energy here. It's only Game 1, fellas, you know what I mean? Like, it's only Game 1. Let's make sure we win the rest of the series. And this would have been, like, this was entertaining regardless, but this would have been extraordinarily entertaining had they gone on to lose the series, which they weren't too far away from doing, to be fair. But yeah, for whatever reason, Thieves just seemed to do well in this game. And of course, JoeDeceives comes in. They've made a roster change. JoeDeceives into the roster. Afro is gone. And Joe had a phenomenal series here. And it seems like, you know, it doesn't take much, I think, for a team to be on the same page and actually have some decent chemistry. Because most of the teams in the league do not have good chemistry. They don't seem to like each other. And, you know, you see what you get. You put 0-4 into Surge. They seem to actually be a bit more like a team. Bang, they start to win. The same is true for Vegas. The same seems to be true for Thieves as well, based on the energy we saw in this series. Now, the control doesn't go their way, though. They lose the round 5. And then we had an absolutely mega Vista hardpoint here. So, look, this map is quite chaotic. There are spawn problems on these games. But, wow, does it create for some exciting moments here? Because Nero was frying in this game. But it looked like at this point, look at the minimap here. Look at the situation. Like, surely there's no way that Thieves lose this game. But they do. They overchow, they die unnecessarily. Nero breaks in and pretty much single-handedly wins them this because he gets the 1-2-3 piece at the end. 1-2. Charles and then guns the third to close out a 41 kill game for Nero. But in the end, it didn't actually matter because in the Game 5, Nastie bounced back on the 6-star search and destroy, dropped a 9-4 game, and went on to win the series. So another grueler, another Game 5er, but another game where the search and destroys edged it for a certain team, and Thieves managed to hold on despite almost getting reverse repped in what would have been pretty crazy fashion after the Game 1. Nero, though, with a good series for the loss, 100 kills, but JoeDeceives got to be the standout really of the day, just because comes in, obviously back into the team after being on the bench and replacing Afro, drops a 1.24, lots of damage, lots of impact, goes on to win his team the series. And oh baby, here we go, OpTic versus FaZe, the final series of the day, and what to even say on this series. Wow, there is a lot of potential things to discuss here. This was the Cellium index going into the series. We've got to mention going into it, Dashy 15-11 going into today's game. He started out the series as we have seen before, the old Dashy versus FaZe when he used to smoke these guys. OpTic though looking to snap a losing spree. These were the maps they decided to play. Kind of, not gonna lie, bit of a screw up here in some ways for OpTic, right? Because they played maps here, certainly 2-3-4, that they know FaZe are good at. They banned the Vista, hardpoint did OpTic, they went for the 6-star, and the 6-star worked out very well for them. But High Rise Search has been a bad map for OpTic so far this season, a good map for FaZe. They went to play that. They went to play a High Rise Control, FaZe's best control arguably, that's what they went for. And then Rio Hardpoint, another very good map for Atlanta FaZe. So it was kind of a scrub here for OpTic. That's kind of what OpTic was talking about, and you can certainly see the merits of doing so. But wow, they should have won the series. They probably should have won the series 4-0. Like, I'm going to be honest here, but they ended up not doing exactly that. So game 1 started, FaZe had a good early rotation, but then especially Dashy kicked into gear. The key point I wanted to mention is that there has been lots of talk from the AR players that, oh, the SMGs are going to be too strong, and we need to get this barrel attachment GA'd and all this stuff. Like, I don't see it, personally. The pistol is still great, which means the ARs can use that up close against the rifle, and then we still see players like Dashy frying long range with the MCW. So I don't buy this idea based on today. You know, the way some of these ARs were talking, you'd have thought we were going to have an 8 rivals on the map. That is clearly not the case. So, you know, I don't want to see the pros crying about this again, but in the end, Dashy has a great map here, 32 in 20, as OpTic close out the game 1. And then the search and destroy started off as they meant to continue. Honestly, at this point, I was pretty sure that OpTic were going to go on and win this one, possibly even 3-0 this one. They were looking unstoppable. Shotzzy, we know how good this guy is in search and destroy, especially online, it's got to be said, but he started off really well here. It was 2-0, then it was 2-1. I mean, FaZe won this round, I'm pretty sure anyway, despite the fact that Cell team killed Simp, which was not great, and OpTic had first blood. Of the 10 rounds that were played, they had first blood in 8 of those rounds. So 80% of rounds, they converted half of those first bloods into round victories, which is nowhere near good enough, of course. But, I mean, look at the plays that Shotzzy makes. This guy is just so much fun to watch. The same is true in control. It's kind of one of the reasons why I don't understand why OpTic have kind of struggled at this high-rise map, because watching Shotzzy play it is like absolutely mesmerizing. And this was then the kill that I thought, you know what, this has got to be it. aBeZy versus Dashy 1 versus 1. Dashy slams him with the pistol. Also goes to show why the ARs, I don't think they're too bad, because they can run around with this absolute god gun in their back pocket as well. But yes, 8 first bloods. But as soon as push came to shove, we've seen this with OpTic before. We've seen this with FaZe previously as well, when they played OpTic, that OpTic will have a nice lead. I think it was true, was it Major 1? They played an invasion, search and destroy. OpTic went up like 4-2. All of a sudden, FaZe adapted, OpTic didn't, and FaZe closed out the game. So that was a game they probably should have won. Again, it's like moments, it's like classic moments. I don't understand why this is such a trend with OpTic, but I swear, like, every time we watch this team, it doesn't really seem to matter who even is on the team. It's just such a trend that they'll get into a 1 versus 2. They'll get into those situations where they just need to calm it down, play a little bit slower, not over chow, but they just can't seem to find a way to do it. I don't understand why it keeps happening, but it keeps happening. They then move into the control, so OpTic mentally, they bounce back, it seemed, from that. And honestly, I don't know how they're going to bounce back for this series. It's going to be tough. We'll see, I'm sure, tomorrow, some of their post-game comments and reaction to this. But during the control, Shotzzy fried. I mean, he went on an 8 spree, got streaks, they dominated the first round of defense, and then they go into the second round, and we get this screenshot. So here they are. They are halfway to capturing A. They have a 10-4 life lead. Simp has just gone down off spawn. I'm pretty sure the streak came through as well, and they lose this round. Like, it's an unforgivable round to lose. You can't afford to do so. But the funny thing is, OpTic maintain their composure. Shotzzy drops 40 in this game as well, and they find themselves here on the verge of going down. It looked absolutely destined that FaZe would win this round, because you know how it goes. It goes round 5, and all of a sudden the offensive team comes to life and starts to win. But no, OpTic actually hit the retake here, and it ends up in a 1 versus 2. Completely insane ending to the control. Like, every time OpTic and FaZe play, I swear, man, they are some banger results that you get. But right now, the results are all the same, you know, like, it's very consistent and actually very predictable in the way that these games will end. You seem to know they will be very close games. They will be games where the clutch factor is absolutely required. But you know who's going to win them right now, and that is the difference maker for FaZe. Just as I play this forward here, ends up in a 1 versus 3 for Shotzzy, gets the first, somehow here gets away with his life actually, gets up top, just finds himself in a position to get one more, but eventually is traded, and FaZe take the game. And then we go to a Rio hardpoint after Shotzzy becomes the first player to lock in 2 40 bombs on the season, and like, they somehow let Simp do this. It's like, Simp versus OpTic this season has a ridiculous record, and for some reason, in these key moments, like, Simp just comes to life here. Pred has been pretty underwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. In the series against FaZe, Pred has been underwhelming, there's no doubt about it. Kenny wasn't great in the search and destroy. Today they played either, which can still be a bit of a weakness of his game. But again, they lose like another rotation. It went all the way down to like the final rotation, but FaZe got enough time and Cellium close it out. So FaZe get the job done in the end. A series that, as I say, OpTic will look at and feel like they should have won 4-0 in some ways, but they didn't. And the amount of incredibly close games that OpTic have sometimes just lost because they were the superior or the inferior team, but sometimes in the case of today, absolutely thrown away in Game 2 and Game 3. There will be some optimism to take because these were many of FaZe's good maps and OpTic should have beat them on it, but they didn't. And that is the key point again. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.